Broadcasting from the basement of La Penta, it's WICR.
Welcome back, folks, for our second segment of the day of The Rock is On. I'm your host, The Rock, and we talked about the Mets spring training, what to look for them going into spring training. Now we're going to shift our focus from the Mets to the Yankees. And the Yankees, look, I wouldn't say they're not going to be competitive. I'm not going to deny that, but there's no way that this team is going to be anyone can consider this team to be a World Series team or a championship caliber team, because they have a lot more holes to figure out. Their starting pitching is going to be an enigma. It's going to be healthy. It's going to be a concern. You don't really have anything other than Tanaka. You really don't have a whole lot. I mean, you have some upside with Severino, with Pineda, but it's all a matter if those guys can just stay healthy and stay consistent. You know, similar to the Mets, but it's just, I don't know, could you really win with those guys? You don't know. Because, you know, the Yankees pitching rotation, they've dealt with some injuries, not only last year, but in years prior, is that you have Tanaka, who has elbow tightness and has a slight tear in his pitching elbow. Now that's alarming. When you hear the word tear, that's always alarming to anyone, regardless if you're an athlete or not. But when you hear tear, it's a bit scary, and you start thinking, oh, he's going to need surgery. He may need Tommy John. It's all a matter of when that injury is going to be catastrophic. But he's been pitching through it well. Shows no, regression. Shows no discomfort, so to speak. But it's still an eye to keep on. It's still something to keep an eye on. And now you have CC Sabathia, who's a veteran. It's all a matter of is he going to be decent? Can he be decent? Can he be what he was last year? Because you know what? Nobody saw what he did. Nobody saw that coming. What he did last year. Now, granted, it wasn't ideal, wasn't great, but he did just enough to keep the Yankees in the games that he pitched respectfully. So, it's all that matters. Can he do the same thing again this year? And then you have Michael Pineda. Now this guy, I have to admit, this guy has so much potential. A lot of potential. But can he bring his A game every time he pitches or every time he goes to the mound? Because this guy is just so inconsistent. It's not even funny. It's like he'll have one phenomenal game where he'll strike out, let's say, 14, 15, 16 batters and get the W, and then the next start he'll get rocked. Also, one thing I noticed about Pineda is that he relies on striking out batters too much. Because he accumulates a lot of strikeouts as a pitcher. He's always going to be in the top 5 in strikeouts. But then you see his ERA, it's like 4, 5, 6. And you're wondering, how does a guy strike out a lot of batters, but then still give up that many runs? That just shows you his only way of getting batters out is by striking out, and by striking them out, and you know what? That's not a good way as a pitcher. That's not good for a pitcher to do, because there's got to be a multiple ways to get batters out, whether it's making them pop up, ground out, or yes, even striking out. But you can't rely too heavily on striking out batters, because there's going to be some batters that are just trying to make contact, put the ball in play, and then they hope that good things happen. But a question with Pineda is, can he bring his A game, and can he stay consistent every start or every time he pitches? And then last but not least, can Luis Severino bounce back after last year's abysmal season? He had a 3.8 record. I think his ERA was just about 5, if I stand corrected. And I can understand he may have had some butterflies, some nerves pitching in the major leagues. But you know what? Can he bounce back? Can he be the top prospect that the Yankees envision him to be? Because, Brian Cashman didn't trade him. He was like I said, Severino was one of the top prospects that the Yankees had in their farm system in the last few years. And Brian Cashman was reluctant and a bit hesitant to trade any of his prospects to get a big-time free agent or to get a big-time player who was going to be a 2-month rental anyway. So and I give Cashman credit for doing that, because I would have done the same thing if I was in his shoes. Got to rebuild, got to build through the farm system, and build around our guys and develop our own players. I mean, it's nice to have, a big-time player, a big-time name to trade for, but you gotta give something to get something, and Cashman wasn't going to do that. Plus, that's also a smart thing to do, because not only you're developing your own players, but you're saving money. So in case, let's say, Bryce Harper or Manny Machado becomes a free agent, you have a chance to get him and sign him to a lucrative contract and make him a Yankee for a long period of time. So that's the questions for the Yankees in their starting rotation. And now we got to go into the position players. And, there's a lot of young faces, a lot of new players going to be coming in. You have guys like Aaron Judge, Tyler Austin, Greg Bird. Well, Greg Bird, he's been with the Yankees for a little here and there before, but he has a chance to be a starter. And one thing to keep your eye out on, if you're a Yankee fan, is the battle of right field, because it's going to come down to either Aaron Hicks or Aaron Judge. And we all know Hicks has experience. He has more MLB experience, playing with the Twins, and I believe the A's as well. He's got a cannon of an arm. But if Judge beats him out, then Hicks probably gets cut and then plays for another team, or another team picks him up. But if Hicks beats out Judge, then that means Judge is going to get sent down to the minors, and Hicks will be the starting right fielder come opening day for the Yankees. So that's just something to keep your eye on, and that'll be interesting to see whether it's going to be the so-called rookie, because Judge came up last year, had some bright moments, but can the so-called rookie or the second-year player technically beat out a guy that has more experience? That's what I'm going to be looking forward to seeing in spring training when I watch the games. And then also, the Yankees, I guess you can say they have a myriad of first basemen, or a myriad of guys that can play first base. Like, they signed Chris Carter, former Astro, former Brewer, can hit a plethora of home runs, mammoth shots as well, but his flaw is he strikes out a lot. And you get that with a lot of players. With some players, where they either hit a home run or they strike out. There's no in-between. And then you have Greg Bird, who missed all of last year with the torn labrum. Can he bounce back? Can he be healthy? And then, not to mention, you signed Matt Holliday, the former Cardinal, former Rocky, to a one-year contract. So you can possibly have a platoon at first base. Because we all know Holliday could possibly be the designated hitter. Maybe he play a little outfield, play him at first base here and there. But the question is, who will be playing first base for the Yankees? Is it going to be Chris Carter, or is it going to be Greg Bird? Now the thing is, I think similar to the Hicks and Judge situation in right field, I think if Chris Carter beats out Greg Bird for the starting position at first base, then Greg Bird probably gets sent down to the minors, and then it's going to be Carter's position. But if Greg Bird beats out Chris Carter for the competition, or for the first baseman's job, then Carter he won't get cut, but he'll probably get moved to the bench. Now why do you ask, why would Hicks get cut but not Carter, though? Because the Yankees signed Carter and they invested a lot more in Carter than Hicks. And plus, the reason why, and some people wondered, why do the Yankees sign so many right-hand batters to play first base? It didn't make any sense. Like, they were a bit perplexed when they signed Chris Carter, because in the AL East there's going to be a lot of left-hand pitchers, and the Yankees needed some right-hand power, and you can get that with Matt Holliday and Chris Carter. So that's why they signed both those guys. So if they're facing a lefty, they can put both Carter and Holliday in the lineup, and that can provide some pop for the Yankees. But I think that's what will happen, though. If Greg Bird beats out Chris Carter, Carter will get moved to the bench. He'll be more of a pinch hitter, and Greg Bird will be mostly the everyday starter. That's if you include Matt Holliday. You make him play for some first base here and there. And lastly, though, the Yankees, like I said earlier in the segment, the Yankees, they'll be competitive, but they're not going to be a World Series team because they have tremendous upside and a lot of young talent, and they need to develop these guys. But also, they got some guys who have some bad contracts or contracts they want to get rid of. Like Chase Headley, who's in his third year of a 4-year contract. Like Jacoby Ellsbury, who you're going to be with him for another 3 years. Yeah, another 3 years because he's in the 4th year of his 7-year deal. And then you got Brett Gardner, who the Yankees tried to trade during the offseason, but probably won't get traded. Unless, let's say, worst case scenario for the Yankees, they have a terrible season and some teams come knocking on the door and calling Brown and Cashman and say, hey, we'll give you this for Brett Gardner, and they want to make a late season push for the playoffs and possibly the World Series. That's the only reason. That's the only way you can get rid of those guys. If not, you're pretty much going to be stuck with them for this year and possibly next year. So you're going to have probably Brett Gardner and Jacoby Ellsbury as your left fielder and right field, and then maybe Aaron Hicks, possibly Matt Holliday right. And that's it. And there goes your outfielder. So you're definitely going to have Gardner and Ellsbury. Those are two of your 3 outfielder spots are already going to be filled. But in regards to the Yankees, though, they won't be a championship team this year. But I'd say come 2019, maybe even next year, but 2019, 2020, and possibly next year, then they'll start being a World Series team. Back after this.